Danny's is a new and popular New York City restaurant that serves a menu of elevated American comfort food. There's fried chicken, hot pockets, an indulgent skillet cookie, and so much more that I just had to try.
Beautiful spring evening today here in New York City. Right now I'm at Madison Square Park and I'm just recovering from the very filling dinner I had at a very popular and new NYC restaurant. I am talking about Danny's, and it's an interesting restaurant in that it comes from Dan Abrams, who does a lot of things, but he's probably best known for his television appearances. He is currently the chief legal analyst on ABC News, and he hosts and has hosted a number of other shows. Now, he's no stranger to the restaurant business. In fact, he's opened a couple of places in the past, but Danny's may be his best one yet. And my stomach can attest to that. And when I say I ate a lot, I ate a lot. In fact, I had 4 appetizers before I even got to my main course. Now, there were a number of factors that actually drove me to Danny's, but the chief among them was their menu. See, Danny's serves sort of elevated American comfort food. I am talking about dishes like an excellent burger, fried chicken, a skillet cookie dessert, the food that we all want to eat. And I ate a hell of a lot of it. In fact, there may not be a video next week because I could still be too full. I'm just kidding, there'll definitely be a video next week, but I am really full. So with that being said, this was my dinner at Danny's.
Danny's is located in New York City's Flatiron district and opened their doors back in October of 2025. The restaurant comes from Dan Abrams, who is the chief legal analyst on ABC News, but he's also an author, host, and producer. Regarding restaurants, he's opened spots in the past, like the Lion and White Street. Helming the kitchen at Danny's is Chef Ed Tinoco, who formerly led the kitchen at the Alinea Group's Next restaurant in Chicago. In fact, Chef Tinoco helped Next earn its Michelin star. I've actually been to Next. I was there last year for the Massimo Bottura menu, which proved to be one of the best meals I had in 2025. Without a doubt, I was very excited for my dinner at Danny's, so I arrived to the restaurant for my reservation at 5:15 on a Tuesday night. After checking in, I was seated at the bar, which sits alongside the main dining room. Danny's is a small, dimly lit restaurant. Now, I know energy prices have skyrocketed lately, but I do prefer places that are a bit brighter. However, once my eyes adjusted, I did appreciate the look of Danny's. It's got a lively atmosphere and a good feel to it. With my vision attuned to the room, I was then able to read the menu. Danny's offers a selection of American classics elevated to a fine dining level. In a sense, it's similar to what places like the Corner Store and Fort Charles Prime Rib have done with their menus. Danny's Burger has started to garner a lot of hype and praise, plus I've heard good things about their pastas. That night, however, I was set on getting the restaurant's fried chicken. Price-wise, Danny's isn't cheap, but for the most part, it's pretty standard compared to similar New York City restaurants. In terms of beverages, there were a number of classic cocktails with some interesting twists to them, but I felt like having wine. Danny's, after all, labels itself as an American wine bistro. The bottles on offer are American through and through, but the interesting thing about Danny's is that they also highlight a number of lesser-known American wine regions. For instance, the restaurant offers wines from states like Texas, New York, and Michigan. The wine I chose, however, was from a more well-known state for wine, California. I went with a glass of the 2024 Ditum Chardonnay. That proved to be a pleasant wine with a nice body to it and good character, which I certainly enjoyed. First up, in terms of food, was my appetizer. However, I was recognized, which resulted in the restaurant very generously giving me a few additional courses. It was very kind, but unnecessary. Nevertheless, I really appreciated it. One of the servers who presented a dish to me said I didn't have to finish it all, which sounded like a challenge to me, and I was more than willing to take it on. I started with the dish I actually ordered, the smoked Dora King Salmon Crispy Rice with pearl onions and a yuzu kosho. That creation proved to be a 2-biter, and each bite was pure joy. That snack had a delightful creaminess and richness to it, but the perfectly crunchy rice proved to be the ideal contrast. Next, I sampled the spicy tuna with black rice that was topped with wasabi sesame seeds. Out of the 3 crispy rice options, the tuna seemed to be the most popular, and I soon realized why. It was spectacular. In fact, I enjoyed it a bit more than the salmon crispy rice. First off, it had a similar creamy and crunchy textural contrast, but the slight spice and the quality of the tuna elevated that dish to another level. I loved it. Next, I tried one of the restaurant's most popular dishes, the ham and cheese hot pockets. While the creation may be inspired from the typical grocery store frozen food offering, the execution is anything but typical. The hot pockets are stuffed with a 4-cheese blend topped with 16-month aged ham and hot honey with a cup of tomato sauce on the side. I first topped one of the pockets with a bit of the sauce and then dove right in. That was an excellent treat. It really had it all. The dish was perfectly fried and nicely stuffed with cheese. The ham provided a pleasurable saltiness, while the hot honey and tomato sauce gave the snack a good sweetness. I also loved the whole nostalgic childhood feel of the dish, while it still maintained a level of sophistication. After finishing both of the crispy rice courses along with the hot pockets, I figured the main course would be up next, but nope, that wasn't the case. Chef Ed Tinoco himself presented to me another one of the restaurant's most notable dishes, the chopped kale salad. Once again, that was very generous, and it was a pleasure to meet Chef Tinoco. The dish contained oven-roasted tomatoes, blue corn, avocados, some mint, along with a lime vinaigrette. The creation is sort of like a meatless taco salad, but it was a hell of a lot better than any taco salad that I've ever had. Basically, I feel like a meat-free salad has no business being that good. It was fantastic. There was such a depth of flavors and textures coming from that dish. I loved the freshness of the mint, the crunch from the tortilla chips, and the acidity from the lime vinaigrette. That was a great course. Now, I didn't leave the plate as clean as I usually do, but I also don't typically have 4 appetizers before my main course either, which I was soon presented with. I went with the rosemary fried chicken, which included a pair of maple biscuits along with a couple of sauces and maple butter. That whole plate was mouth-watering, and I couldn't wait to give it a go. First, I tried one of the biscuits. I applied a bit of the maple butter and gave it a go. It was delicious. Those biscuits were perfectly baked and had a sweet maple coating. In fact, they didn't even really need the butter. Before I was able to try the chicken, I was very generously given a glass of sparkling wine because, of course, sparkling wine, champagne, and the like pair perfectly with fried chicken. Once again, I was very grateful for it, and it indeed paired very nicely with the chicken. And speaking of the chicken, it was excellent. First off, the crispy factor of the chicken was a 10 out of 10. The crunch was out of this world. Plus, that breading had some good flavor to it. Most importantly, however, the meat was cooked just right. Now, the chicken was a delight on its own, but I loved the variety of flavors the sauces provided. It really kept things interesting. The buffalo sauce had a mild spice, while the ranch lent a creamy richness. Overall, that was some great fried chicken. Out of 10, I would give it an 8.8. One tiny little aspect that I wasn't so keen on was the doily the chicken was resting on. Now, I get that it's there to likely soak up moisture and maybe provide a bit of visual appeal, but I was concerned that I could accidentally cut a piece of it off and get it mixed in with the chicken. Thankfully, that wasn't the case, but it's something to be careful of. After finishing, it was time for dessert, and while I was nearly full, I just had to try the restaurant's signature chocolate chip deep dish cookie. Upon seeing that dessert, I found a bit more space in my stomach. It's a rather simple creation consisting of a thick, gooey chocolate chip cookie topped with a generous scoop of ice cream that has a drizzle of olive oil. As expected, that dish was amazing. It was a top-tier skillet cookie. The cookie was warm, fresh, and gooey. Combined with the cool ice cream, it was perfect. Besides the dessert, I was also very generously provided with a glass of nocino, which is a walnut liqueur, and it paired perfectly. Overall, I had a great time at Danny's. The food was excellent, the hospitality was fantastic, and I was at the point of bursting, but I somehow managed to finish. In terms of the bill, it totaled to $107.79. However, because reservations at Danny's require a $15 deposit plus tax, that amount is deducted from the final total, which meant I only had to pay $91.46. Because of the amazing service and all the generous extras I received that evening, I had to give a larger than normal tip, so I gave $50, bringing my total to $141.46.
So that was delicious, and my goodness, I am so full right now. I have reached my limit. First off, that was very kind and generous of the restaurant to give me those complimentary courses. It was unnecessary, but I really appreciated it. Now, it's pretty clear that I'm getting recognized more and more in restaurants these days, but I've got to say, with whatever I'm eating, I will always be honest about it. Anyways, back to Danny's. This restaurant is really kind of approaching the formula that a lot of restaurants these days have found success in that they're doing the food you want to eat in an elevated, fine dining sort of format with a comfortable and casual but still nice atmosphere. I'm trying to think what my favorite dish is. I think it was probably the fried chicken, but it's a close one because I really like that tuna crispy rice. Oh, I forgot about the dessert. That was probably one of the best desserts I've had this year. In fact, it might be the best dessert I've had this year. I think it's a close tie between that dessert I had at the Modern and the skillet cookie I had tonight. To sum it up, I really like Danny's. I think it's a restaurant that a lot of people could really just love. Now, I'll definitely be back at Danny's. I've got to try their burger. You know, burgers are one of my favorite things, and that one looks like a really good one. In summation, I think Danny's is a really good new restaurant. I love what they're doing. They've got a great menu, and I will certainly be back.